Before the black cleaner rubbed his eyes and an inconceivable occurrence occurred, the millionaire's door was blind. "What color is the sky, Dad?" Tyler's naive inquiry pierced the officer's quiet like a blade. The CEO of one of the wealthiest families in Chicago, Robert Blackstone, felt his chest constriction. Two eyes that had never seen the light. How could he describe colors? Despite living in a $15 million mansion at the age of 9, Tyler's environment was utterly black. Congenital blindness was her birth condition, and the nation's leading experts had already rendered their conclusions. Incurable, there is irreparable damage to the visual nerve. Over $3 million had been spent by Robert on experimental treatments, gene therapies in Boston, Swiss clinics, and Japanese surgeons. Nothing was successful. Her daughter was constantly in need of someone to lead her as he walked around the estate with his hands outstretched. Running into furniture. "I apologize for disturbing you, Mr. Blackstone," the uncertain voice from the doorway murmured. "I'm the new housekeeper, Rose Washington." Robert hardly raised his head from his computer. In her faded blue uniform, a black woman in her 60s with gray hair, pulled back in a basic bun, clutched a mop in her rough hands. She was just another temporary employee of the cleaning company, in his opinion. "Your obligations will be explained by the butler." He responded icily, "Stay away from my daughter," already returning his focus to the contracts. Rose nodded politely, but her eyes glowed with empathy that Robert had never seen in the pricey doctors who walked around the house, especially when she spotted Tyler sitting in the corner, holding a teddy bear. Rose said, "Hi, sweetie," and knelt down to the child's level. Tyler turned his attention toward the unknown voice and asked, "What's your name?" Robert sniffed angrily. "You seem different from other people." "Rose, I told you to keep your distance." "Tyler, go to your room." But there was something in Rose's eyes, a deep serenity, as if she held secrets that no medical degree could explain. As Tyler got up to leave, she murmured something that made the girl stop. "Sometimes, daughter, darkness is just what comes before the most beautiful light." Robert frowned. What kind of cleaning lady talked like that? And why was Tyler smiling for the first time in weeks? That night, while Tyler slept, Rose prayed silently in her room at the back of the property. In her worn cloth bag, she kept a small glass jar with a homemade ointment that her grandmother had taught her to make decades ago. It was an old recipe passed down from generation to generation, which many would say was just superstition. But Rose knew that true healing doesn't always come from the places where money seeks it. If you're enjoying this story of overcoming all odds, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because what will happen in the coming days in that mansion will challenge everything you believe to be possible. The following days brought a routine that Robert controlled with military precision. Rose arrived at 6 a.m. to clean the upper floors, always silently, always invisible to her boss's eyes. But Tyler had started waiting for her in the hallways. "Rose, you're back," the girl whispered. She said, "I always come back, dear. People like me know how to keep promises," as she carried on with her task, speaking quietly. Every morning, locating her by the sound of her soft footsteps. From the top of the steps, Robert observed these exchanges with increasing annoyance. He heard Tyler laughing in the garden during a video conference with Japanese investors, which he halted because it hadn't happened in months. He turned off the audio and remarked icily, "Pardon me for a moment." Rose was sitting on the seat beside Tyler in the garden, showing her various leaf textures, and the kid touched each one with genuine interest, grinning with each new find. "Rose, I need to talk to you now," he said. Robert slammed the office door with needless force, saying, "I ordered you to keep your distance from my daughter. Tyler needs competent therapy, not amusement from an unqualified individual." He stopped, looking for hurtful remarks. Rose spoke calmly as usual, her hands still clasped. "I merely chat with her when I'm at work, Mr. Blackstone." The girl appears to be lonely. In Chicago, Tyler has the top specialists. Each session with Dr. Harrison costs $1,000. A cleaning lady's small conversation is unnecessary for him. Rose had grown up in rural Louisiana, where her grandmother, Mama Celia, was a well-known healer, but Robert was unaware of this. Rose had witnessed the elderly woman make cures from plants that grew in the backyard since she was a young child. As Mama Celia used to say, some cures come from love, not books. When white doctors refused to treat their community, 5 generations of black women healed using teaing Rose recipes. Rose gently remarked, "With all due respect, sir." The rudeness of the response caused Robert to clench his fists. "Your daughter is sad. Sadness cannot be cured with money." This woman believed she was someone else. "You're not here to offer counsel regarding my daughter. You're here to scrub the floor. I'll fire you right now if I catch you speaking to Tyler once again." But Rose was no stranger to strong men. After her husband died in a dangerous workplace in the 1960s, she raised 3 children alone, marched in Montgomery, and cleaned the houses of white families who treated her like furniture. Another wealthy individual who mistakenly believed that wealth equated to knowledge was Robert Blackstone. Rose crept up to Tyler's room that night after Robert had left for a business dinner. The youngster was holding his teddy bear and gazing blankly into space. "Darling, may I enter?" For the first time that day, Tyler grinned. "I assumed your father had fired you, Rose." "Tyler, I'm not afraid of your dad. All my life, I have seen men like him." Rose took a seat beside her on the bed. "Today, I brought something unique." She removed a tiny cotton sash from the pocket of her apron. "Some plants, according to my grandma, store sunshine inside of them. Inhale this scent." The gentle aroma of lavender and herbs that Rose had picked as a youngster filled Tyler's nostrils. "It has a peaceful scent." "That's right. Shut your eyes now. Shut them off from everything else, even though I know they're already shut off from the light. Tell me how you're feeling after taking a deep breath." Tyler complied. She was silent for a few seconds. Then, her face shifted. "There's light, Rose. It's a small light, but it's visible." Despite her racing heart, Rose spoke calmly. "What sort of light, my love?" "Similar to a little golden star. It feels real, even though it's only in my thoughts." Rose was aware that Robert's doctors would never comprehend what she was seeing. Healing, according to her grandma, always starts when the heart finds hope. "Tyler, that light will expand, but for now, it's our secret." "All right." Robert noted minor alterations over the course of the following few days. Tyler appeared more attentive at the expensive weekly doctor's appointments, walked with greater assurance, and tripped less over furniture. "Interesting," Dr. Harrison muttered as he used cutting-edge technology to examine Tyler. "She has somewhat improved pupillary reflexes. Our new experimental protocol may be effective." Robert grinned contentedly. At last, the $50,000 investment in the nation's most cutting-edge treatment was paying off. He would never think that his daughter's progress was due to his private discussions with a housekeeper. But because someone was discussing possibilities with Tyler for the first time, Rose understood he was changing. Not restrictions. Upon Robert's departure each night, she would stealthily approach the girl's chamber and apply a few drops of the homemade ointment she kept in her pocket. Dozens of people in the rural village had cataracts, cured by Mama Celia using the same recipe. "Rose, why are you assisting me?" On one of those evenings, Tyler inquired. "Your father hasn't learnt to recognize what I see in you, sweetheart. Pricey medications don't provide light. It is rooted on faith." Robert would never have thought that the woman he hated the most in that house was responsible for his son's recovery while he was spending fortunes on worthless specialists. Rose's resolve to demonstrate that love can see where prejudice blinds, and that sometimes the greatest insight comes from the very places the powerful refuse to see was only bolstered by each fresh humiliation she endured. Rose carefully recorded the developments that occurred in the ensuing weeks in an old notebook she kept beneath her mattress. Tyler was able to differentiate between light and shadow in the west hallway on March 15th. Detected my silhouette on March 22nd from a distance of 3 meters. Even if they were unaware that they were witnessing a miracle, the date, time, and witnesses were recorded for every advancement. Robert called a news conference in the main hall of the estate, totally unaware of what was going on beneath his own roof. Perfect in his Armani suit, He gestured boldly as CNN and Chicago Tribune reporters sat in gilded chairs. He told the cameras, "My son Tyler is responding extraordinarily well to the experimental treatments I brought from the Mayo Clinic." At his side, Dr. Harrison gave a professorial nod. "We've invested $2.5 million this year alone, and the results speak for themselves." The protocol created especially for Tyler embodies the state-of-the-art in neurophthalmology globally. Rose was gently setting up the coffee cups she had served while she watched from a corner. As he sat in the front row, Tyler grinned broadly at the cameras that he could not see but could feel for the first time in his life. Robert responded without hesitation when a reporter inquired about his care regimen. The nation's top specialists are entirely Harvard-trained. Behavioral psychologists and physical therapists make up the elite team. What about caretakers at home? A journalist insisted. A member of his family who goes with him every day. Robert laughed patronizingly. The only thing our domestic help does is work. Individuals who are not equipped to handle such a complicated medical matter. Rose's face burned, but she maintained a neutral look. Tyler turned his attention in her direction at that same moment, as he had done multiple times during the interview. Perhaps in search of her consoling presence. The motion was caught on camera, but nobody knew what it actually meant. Rose crept up to Tyler's room after the reporters had left. More thrilled than ever, the lad sat on the bed and waited for her. "I noticed the camera lights today, Rose. Their luminosity differed from that of the sun." "Yes, sweetheart. All of your statements were accurate." Pulling her notebook from her pocket, Rose took a seat beside him. "I have a crucial item to tell you, Tyler. Your father's costly medications aren't the cause of everything that's happening to you. Even the lights you're seeing." Curious, Tyler cocked his head. "What are you saying?" "I learned from my grandmother, Mama Celia, that sometimes the heart, not the hospital, is the source of healing. She raised plants in her Louisiana backyard to make the ointment I use on you." A faded picture of the elderly black woman grinning by a lovely garden was shown to him by Rose. Hundreds of people who were diagnosed with incurable diseases were healed by her. Tyler lightly touched the picture. "Why does Dad not think so? Since your father was raised to believe that only costly items are valuable, my love. He never realized that sometimes the most profound insight may be found in the most ordinary settings." Rose did something she hadn't done in years that evening. In New Orleans, she gave her sister Deborah a call. As a retired nurse, Deborah had devoted decades to recording instances of traditional medicine that were disregarded by the mainstream medical establishment. "Are you certain of what you're doing, Rose?" After hearing the entire story, Deborah inquired, "If that rich guy finds out, he might ruin you." The boy was dying inside Deb. "He is now flourishing, not because he was blind, but because he was neglected." Rose gazed at her image in the shadowed windowpane. "When you have a gift, you can't hide it out of fear," Mama Celia used to say. "Then meticulously record everything. You'll have to provide evidence that our medication is effective if that haughty rich decides to sue you." Rose started surreptitiously taking pictures of Tyler as he went about his everyday business over the course of the following few days. Always getting his permission. The boy strolling through the hallways without faltering. Identifying objects at greater distances. Smiling as he recognized shapes and outlines. Every time-stamped photo was unquestionably proof of genuine advancement. Meanwhile, Robert stepped up his efforts to promote himself. "You should see Tyler now," he boasted shamelessly during a meal with other executives, claiming that the youngster was essentially cured. Robert made a point of emphasizing each word as if to make it clear that regular people had no bearing on his son's recovery. "Sure, it cost a fortune, but when you have unlimited resources," one of the guests said, impressed. "How do you manage the daily care? It must be intense." "We have a team. No big deal. The important thing is the real experts." Rose was in the kitchen making dessert coffee, listening to everything. Her resolve to reveal the truth only became stronger with each haughty utterance. Tyler shocked everyone one evening by going downstairs by himself to fetch water. When he heard the assured footsteps, Robert, who was in his office, went to look. In the kitchen, he discovered his kid pouring himself water with exact movements. as though he could see fine in the familiar setting. "How did you, Tyler?" The boy smiled brightly as he turned. "Dad, I managed to come downstairs on my own. Now everything is more obvious." It made Robert feel both proud and alienated. Even for experimental treatments, the rate of advancement appeared to be too rapid. Just then, Rose emerged from her living quarters in the rear room and knocked on the kitchen door. She said, "Good evening, Mr. Blackstone," with grace. "I arrived to investigate after hearing a noise." Tyler instantly became even more radiant. "Rose, I demonstrated to Dad that I can now walk independently." There was no denying their interaction. Tyler naturally leaned toward Rose, tried to win her favor, and changed the way he smiled around her. Unable to articulate why that interaction disturbed him so much, Robert watched everything with increasing uneasiness. "Return to your room, Tyler." Curtly, he said, "It's late." For the first time, Robert gave Rose a dubious look after the youngster left. "In any case, how long have you been employed here?" 3 months, sir." "Has Tyler been so close to you all along?" Rose looked at him fearlessly. Youngsters can tell who genuinely cares about them. Even as adults, they retain this tendency, Mr. Blackstone. The response felt like a kick to the face. Robert didn't say anything else before leaving. He started to suspect, however, that there was more going on in his home than he could control for the first time. Knowing that the time for secrecy was running out, Rose went back to her room. Not only would she soon have to admit that her hands were healing Tyler, but she would also have to admit that Robert's pride and haughtiness were all founded on a falsehood that she had let to grow until now. Opening her notebook, she jotted down the day's final entry. "Robert is starting to suspect. Tyler has nearly recovered. It's time to get ready for the disclosure." Robert Blackstone was unaware that every haughty statement he had made in public, every credit he had fraudulently claimed, and every instance in which he had disparaged Rose in front of others was being meticulously recorded by someone who knew exactly how to use that evidence when the time came to reveal to the world who had truly restored Tyler's vision. The information came as a surprise. "Dad, I can see the colors of the garden from my bedroom window. The green of the trees, the blue of the pool, even the red flowers Rose planted." Tyler yelled excitedly during what appeared to be a routine breakfast as he ran down the stairs, something that was unimaginable just a few weeks ago. Robert nearly dropped his coffee cup. "Red blossoms. Which flowers are red?" "The ones Rose brought from her house and planted under my window so I could practice distinguishing colors." Tyler replied innocently, unaware that he had just dropped the first bombshell. Robert's mind raced. Rose had never asked permission to plant anything. How did Tyler know about flowers she had supposedly planted secretly? And more importantly, how could a theoretically blind boy see such specific details? "Tyler, go play in the garden. I need to talk to Rose." When Rose appeared in the kitchen, Robert stared at her with an intensity she had never seen before. "I want you to explain to me, word for word, what you have been doing to my son." Rose took a deep breath. After months of lying by omission, the moment of truth had arrived. "Mr. Blackstone, your son was dying inside. Not from blindness, but from neglect. All I did was give him the love and attention that the doctors couldn't give him." "That doesn't answer my question. How is Tyler seeing things that you did secretly?" It was then that Rose took the worn notebook from her apron pocket, which had meticulously documented Tyler's progress. "Because I've been healing him for 3 months, Mr. Blackstone, with home remedies my grandmother taught me. With patience you never had, and with faith your fortunes couldn't buy." Robert snatched the notebook from her hands and began flipping through it frantically. One note after another, one date after another. Photos of Tyler's progress that have been timestamped. Tyler was able to discern between light and shade. On March 15th, detected my silhouette on March 22nd from a distance of 3 meters. April 2nd appropriately recognized the pool's blue hue. The words, "That's impossible," Robert mumbled. However, the conviction in his voice had diminished. "Impossible is what you believed for 3 months, while publicly boasting about a cure you didn't deliver." Rose responded calmly. "You were lying at every press conference, Interview, every time you took credit for Tyler's recovery. And I've got evidence of everything. Tyler rushed into the kitchen at that same time, but he stopped suddenly as he felt the tension in the air. What's happening? Why are you fighting? Robert turned to face his kid. For the first time in months, I gave him a serious look. Tyler was unique. He had brilliant eyes. He moved with assurance. His smile seemed sincere. Why hadn't he noticed earlier? Robert's voice trembled as he said, Tyler, be honest with me. Who gave you the sight? Rose, or the doctors? The boy was heartbroken by the question. His comments sounded like a sad confession as he glanced at Rose and then at his father. Dad, Rose. Rose was always the one. Every night, she administered medication to my eyes. Gave me the ability to sense the world. Gave me the impression that I could see. After injuring me with needles, the physicians informed me that it was not feasible. The ensuing hush was heartbreaking. Robert's world fell apart. 3 months of interviews, boasting to investors, and claiming that his limitless finances were the reason behind his son's recovery. It's all a lie. With a tone full of rage and embarrassment, he said, Rose, you made me look like a fool. Mr. Blackstone, no. When you determined that love and patience were worthless because they came from someone you viewed as inferior, you did that yourself. Robert's phone rang at that very moment. It was Mr. Blackstone, his publicity secretary. We must speak immediately. Information on Tyler's cure's actual source has been leaked to the Chicago Tribune. Robert's heart stopped beating. What are you discussing? Tomorrow, the story will be released. They have everything, including documentation and pictures. The headline reads, Millionaire falsely claims credit for cleaning lady's miracle cure. Blackstone, Mr. Your reputation will be ruined by this. Robert's hands were shaking when he hung up. Rose calmly observed him. He said it was you. You told the media about it. Mr. Blackstone, I didn't have to reveal anything. The truth is a living thing. One of the reporters chose to look into it more after you stated in your final interview last week that unqualified individuals are irrelevant to Tyler's recovery. She found that rather than the costly procedures, the results came precisely when I arrived. For Robert, the following few hours were a nightmare. The phone continued to ring. Journalists requesting statements, board members of the corporation demanding explanations, and investors doubting his honesty. On social media, the tale soon gained traction. The black woman who truly cured his son was cheated by a haughty millionaire. Bewildered and terrified by the chaos, Tyler sought solace beside Rose. Did I do something wrong? Everyone is asking. No, dear. You didn't do anything wrong. You just told the truth. And sometimes, the truth upsets those who have been living a lie. Robert felt helpless wrath as he saw his son select Rose once more. When Rose eventually got to her feet, her voice took on a tone Robert had never heard before. You planned all this, didn't you, to make me look like a fraud, she said, unwavering, dignified, and strong. Your son needed healing, so I'm going to do it. You bear full responsibility if that revealed your conceit and bias. She looked across at Tyler. I have to disappear for a while, honey, but keep in mind what I always told you. You already have the light within you. That cannot be taken away. Rose, don't leave. Stay with me. Tyler ran to give her a hug. Tears filled his eyes, which were now brilliant and vibrant. Tyler, I can't remain here much longer. However, we will always be friends. Reporters gathered in front of the home, and Robert observed from his office window as Rose collected her few possessions. He had publicly lied, taken credit from a lowly black lady, and treated the single person who really loved his son, like Trashel of Chicago, would know this in a matter of hours. In order to cancel all upcoming treatments, Dr. Harrison called. I can no longer link the problem to my clinic, Robert. The misleading claims have infuriated the medical community. Meetings were led by his partners. Partnerships were re-examined by investors. In real time, his decades-long reputation was eroding. But the final blow came when Tyler, standing in the office doorway with his now perfectly functional eyes, said with a maturity that cut Robert's heart, Dad, You always said that people like Rose had no value. But she gave me something all your money could never buy. She made me believe that I deserved to see the world." As Rose walked out the front door, crossing the sea of journalists waiting to hear her side of the story, Robert realized he had lost much more than credibility. He had lost his son's trust and the chance to learn that true wealth had never been in his bank account, but in the callous hands of the woman he had despised from day one. The woman who against all odds had performed the miracle that $3 million in treatments had failed to achieve, and who now walked with her head held high to face a world that would finally recognize her true value, leaving behind a man destroyed by his own arrogance. 6 months later, the Blackstone mansion was for sale with a huge sign at the entrance. Robert had lost 60% of his investors after the public scandal. His consulting firm had gone bankrupt, and $3 million contracts had been cancelled. The headlines kept coming. Arrogant CEO steals credit from black woman and lying millionaire exposed by heroic cleaning lady. Rose, on the other hand, became a national sensation. She appeared on Oprah, signed a contract for a book on traditional medicine, and opened a community clinic funded by donations that reached $2 million. Universities invited her to give lectures on ancestral wisdom and holistic healing. "Donna Rose changed my life," Tyler said in an interview with the Chicago Tribune, his eyes shining with perfect clarity. Now 10 years old, he attended regular school, played soccer, and painted colorful pictures that decorated the modest new house Robert had moved into after selling the mansion. Robert, forced to accept reality, sought out Rose one rainy afternoon. I wanted to apologize," he said, his voice breaking. Finding her in the garden of the clinic where she grew the same herbs that had healed Tyler. "You don't need to apologize to me, Mr. Blackstone. You need to apologize to your son and to yourself," Rose replied, handing him a lavender flower. Robert accepted the flower with shaking hands, understanding that he had wasted years hating the single person who could provide his son with what he most needed. It's never too late to learn that a person's worth isn't in their bank account. Genuine optimism. Tyler laughed aloud as he ran through the yard, chasing butterflies that he could now clearly see. "Look, Rose, I see every color." What $3 million in therapies had not been able to accomplish was accomplished by the woman Robert had referred to as merely a cleaning lady. More than that, she had imparted a lesson that would last a lifetime. Genuine greatness comes from having the guts to recognize worth where others only perceive prejudice. Not from having titles or wealth. Knowing she had put more than just a remedy in the child's eyes, Rose grinned as Tyler drew a rainbow in his new notebook. She had sown the seeds of a future in which humanity overcomes conceit. If you were moved by this tale of justice, triumphing over hardship, please subscribe to the channel for more tales that demonstrate how real miracles occur when we stop judging others based solely on their outward appearance and start to see the wisdom that resides in the most humble hearts.